Welcome to the Buddha Belly Life Podcast, empowering purpose, mind to microbiome, a mind-body soul approach to life, starting with your gut. Join me, Coach Britt, as I interview top wellness entrepreneurs and microbiome science geeks, and together we mastermind a bucket list kind of life while building the ultimate vessel to live it in. Welcome to your Buddha Belly Life. Don't forget to take notes. Hey guys, it's me, Coach Britt, back on session 4 of the first month's episodes of the Buddha Belly Life podcast, interviewing myself, so that you know a bit about what this podcast is about. And I brought in my good buddy, Trent Grandstaff, to reiterate and interview me. So I'm not just talking to myself, which I can do, by the way. And so you can get to know a bit about me with his fun sidekickness in this. And this is the final, this is the 4th session of the 4 sessions. And I hope that you enjoy it. Welcome, Trent.
Absolutely. Hello. I do feel a bit like the sheepdog. I'm here to make sure you stay on course and get to the points.
That's always good.
Which is funny that you would consider me for that, because I oftentimes need it. So
I always need it.
Seriously, I sometimes set up timers on my phone to like, hey, pay attention, right? Like get back to work. Because I know, especially being in a studio by myself, it's like, oh, hello, Reddit.
I'm like the kid on Up. Like when I get going on something, especially if I'm passionate, I'm like, I got like my balloons and they're just like, they look and like, where did Brittany go? Where did she's up here? Take her down. Back on track, Britt.
Yeah, you're definitely the kind of person that has turned ADD into a superpower. I think you're just like, you get hyper focused.
It's the gut health.
It's the gut health. Absolutely. So today we've talked about gut health, mental health. We've talked about the last episode, getting paid for your passion. And today we're going to talk about the thing I'm most qualified to talk about, just being a mom boss.
The reality of life.
Mr. Mom. I was a Mr. Mom boss for a few years before I got married and relieved that title to my wife. So talk to us about that, Brittany. Being a mom boss, working mom, entrepreneur life, what does that look like?
Well, for a while there, it looked like single mom life. I was a single mom of 2 kids and I would work. Gosh, so my youngest, I never wanted to do daycare and I really didn't. I was blessed to not do it for a while. So I'd work around my kids, right? But you kind of become a little crazy when you have to do that because you start setting expectations for the kids that they have to follow so that you can get things done. And I can't tell you how many times I've taken phone calls and locked myself in the garage and locked my boys on the other side of the garage because I needed to not have them heard during this phone call, and there's nobody there to help me. So I did the single mom thing for a couple of years and we have a really cool place in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is about the #1 relocation destination in the U.S. right now.
According to Wall Street Journal.
According to Wall Street Journal, yeah. And we have a place here. It's a big center and it's got a big gym and it's got like a rock wall and it's like a family center. But it had daycare too. And it's got a workspace and coffee shop. I mean, it was really genius. And so I had a membership there. And with this membership, you would get 2 hours of childcare per day. That's unreal for like a gym membership, right? And that is how I pulled off a lot of single mom life. That's when I would do like some of my focused work. I'd take my 3-year-old and he would go in 2 hours of daycare and maybe I'd even get like a hit session in, 30 minutes real quick. And then I'd jump at the coffee place and I'd have an hour and a half and I learned to work so efficiently, but getting crafty with life, now fast forward to where I am now, I'm remarried recently and we have 6 kids between the 2 of us. And one was a surprise baby who's now 9 months old. So I work with a 9-month-old and then we have 5 other kids between the ages of 5 and 11. And it is nuts. It is totally nuts. Everybody's like, how do you guys do it? And they're like, you're so great together. And we like remember like the last fight we just literally had about oatmeal packets. And we're like, we just do. You just do it. So that's what life is now. That is what mom entrepreneur life looks like.
Yeah. It sounds pretty similar to dad boss life. Yeah,
right?
it's all, I mean, if you want to look pretty while doing it, maybe don't become an entrepreneur, because there's nothing pretty about it. Anybody on social media that makes entrepreneurialism look like that's a word, right? Entrepreneurialism, look like this really awesome,
Glamorous,
wonderful, just super awesome stuff is happening. They're lying.
Totally.
They're lying.
I shower like once a month when I have to be on camera. That's it. I'm kidding. It's like once a week, but no, I'm kidding.
I could smell you through the screen.
I am wearing sweatpants right now, and
oh boy,
I would say that showering and making myself cute is the last thing on my list, especially being in health. I'm like, I get my workout in, and I got to get my work done, and then I got to keep tiny humans alive, and those three things have to come before anything we get. Right. So
I was going to say, Snapchat, can you just make a filter that makes us look showered and put together? Because that would be great.
Totally.
I'd pay monthly for that subscription. So talk to us about work-life balance. Do you have it? How do you achieve it? How do you keep it? And is it a constant?
Balance is funny. So my husband is in real estate. And anybody who knows what real estate agents do know that predictability of schedule is insane. Even what I do, I have more predictability than him, but I talk to people all over the world. So there's times that I'm connecting with, potential coaches in South Africa or the UK or Australia or, Guatemala. I mean, we have them in like 16 different countries now. And so I've stayed up till 11 p.m. to do a call and gotten up at 4:30 to do a different call before. And he gets called, on something overnight, and we're sitting down to eat dinner and we have a ton of kids. How balance isn't really a thing. I would say that just efficiency and time blocking are the biggest things that I try and do. And that's the time blocking, just maximizing time. Like we talked about in the previous episode, I learned how to, what is it called when you hand off things to other people? What is it called when you not allocate, but
delegate.
That's it. Delegate and invest in other people to do certain things. So then it frees me up to do the more meaty things that I like to do and that I do well and that would be hard to pay somebody else to do. Why am I not paying people to do the things that are easier to pay people to do, And that just clicked for me. I mean, I'm 36 years old. I've been doing business a while, and it's amazing that that's just clicked for me.
Well, and the truth behind it, because I have had to learn that in my video editing, working with editors, you don't, if you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur, do not fall for the trap that you can go and find someone just like you who's going to do as good of a job and you can just tell them to go do it. You actually have to build the systems in place as kind of these bumpers. Think of like the bowling alley, right? You have to have the bumpers because they're going to bounce between the two. And you have to be able to set it up in a way that's going to eliminate drama so that when they don't do it right, you can go back gently and go, so right here, I left you, step-by-step notes, and this is what I'd like you to do. And so, it is like, there is no easy aspect. Even delegating takes effort and time capital, right? That you have to have. And it's all a process. So, and I also want to hit on too, I heard this and I really love this. You can borrow it anytime. Balance is not a noun. It is not a thing. It's a verb because it never stops having to move back and forth. If you think of balancing something on your finger, right? A basketball, you don't just get to hold it in place and the ball just keeps spinning. You have to move your finger around and you have to spin it. I'm terrible at this, so I shouldn't even use it as an example, but it's a verb. And so work-life balance is something that you are constantly having to work at. But it's important to know that because like me, I used to just blame myself for everything, right? So when my life and work would get off balance, it's, I suck at this. I'm not doing good, right? Instead of going, oh no, I just need to adapt. I need to shift.
Yep.
So
my mom would say to me, I think she told me, she said, if someone else can do it like 80% as good as you, have them do it. Like, that was a really big deal. Like, I don't know if I'm willing to give up that 40%, but then life got so crazy that it's like COVID, actually. I mean, being shut down for a year. So get this, right? here's total non-balance. So right when COVID hit, Danny and I had, we had a baby coming, and we had a lot of like really we were single parents even when we dated for a while, running our own households, taking care of our own kids, paying for their stuff, like doing that. And he had 50% custody. I had like 70, 75. And so we had to really methodically be like, are we going to put these kids together? Because if we do that, especially with baby come, if we do that, we don't want to rip them apart. We've been through divorce. We put them through stuff. So we decided last March that, all right, we were in this for the long haul. We didn't want to run down the wedding aisle with me pregnant and just, we deserve to enjoy this one, And so we put that part off for a minute, with the intention though. And so we move everybody in, and it was a methodical thought process, but a quick move. And so we move everybody in, and then all of a sudden COVID hits. And I kid you not, when we were moving a U-Haul back from Washington to Idaho, I wasn't even thinking twice about COVID. And then the weekend we get in this house on my birthday, mind you, on my 35th birthday, pregnant, they lock down the schools and shut down life. And him and I being able to work from home, were like the life raft house for all these kids that all of a sudden didn't have anywhere to go, didn't have school. And so we had just combined in a household of 5 kids with one on the way, all under the age of 10, and who were just jazzed and crazy to be together, which was a blessing. And then they don't have school. And then we're supposed to be homeschooling them on computers. And then we're somehow supposed to still be providing an income to support all these people with them screaming and running around like banshees, and no childcare and no school and no nothing. And that,
hey, the government did send you $1,400, so you stop complaining.
And the government can send me a nanny next time, and we'll be good. All right.
I don't want to know what a government issued nanny looks
I know
like.
we did. Truth to that.
Time for the rectal thermometer.
Yeah. There's times I might let a nanny like that take over my children. It may be good for them, but
right. See how good of a mom I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now do you appreciate me? Now you're gonna listen and take me seriously. No.
So that's actually a great segue into this next topic here, because you can do everything you can to try to do it right. And sometimes life just throws curveballs and it's not going to work out the way you want. So designing your business for your life, what does that look like?
It like you said, with the COVID situation, it was the perfect time because and I think a lot of people went through this with the coaches I've worked with and the people I've talked to and the entrepreneurs. We've seen where certain people have come out of that crisis scenario, and some are recovering. Some are still feeling in a state of crisis, and some are like chomping at the bit. Like they're doing more than they have done. That isolation, that forced stop and break and control was like what they needed to just like tip something, that purpose in them, that need to create, that need to work or build. And for me, it was, I also had a baby that year, so I mean, that automatically sidelines you for a little bit. So I had to adapt so much.
Does it?
Yeah.
get back out there. Yeah.
I know. It's just an appendage, honestly. I mean, what I thought. But it's like, but I look back, and because of what I had to work with, because the heat got turned up, because everything got restricted, it was just like in the beginning, like I talked about in the last episode, when I wrote my first book out of the driver's seat of my car while my baby napped, my window got just shrunk to barely nothing. So it was either you give it up or you're like, how can I maximize this window? How can I maximize this potential as best as I possibly can? And in some ways, that's an incredible gift. And so while 2020 was rough, I think I flew into 2021 like with more than, who knows what I would have actually done in 2020 had I not been through that restriction. Now I've figured out that I can work X amount of hours, and in order to do more than that, I have to pay somebody to help do these things. But how cool is that? That's a process I can multiply in my business, in my life, and all that stuff, and I can still decide to forever keep some of that time in my life sacred, especially while my kids are little, and still have that piece of me that needs to empower the world and wants to succeed and wants to build and do stuff. Would I have found that I will thank Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Work Week. And then I will also thank my brother-in-law, Caleb, who connected me to the best personal assistant I could ever ask for. I'm going to send her this too, because she's done some awesome stuff for me. And I'm like, she has saved my life. She's going to get a bonus.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you might need to give me some tips. That might need to be an episode on its own, how to pick out a good personal assistant.
Yeah. Yep. I got all that.
That's awesome. So how often do you need to be recalibrating your plan for your business to match your life?
I think it's constant, and it depends on where you're at and who you're with. Some people, they have a pretty regular, reliable schedule. Danny and I, we wake up and create a paycheck every day. We wake up and we find the work every single day. And what's cool about that in entrepreneurship is there's not a ceiling on you. And those of us who are entrepreneurs, that's why we do it. We take the uncertainty of tomorrow and stability, and we trade it for the limitless potential of the non-existent ceiling. And so, but when you got two people doing that, things can change. And so we've been blessed so far we've had to teeter-totter. So sometimes I can't tell you how many times we duke it out about the schedule, right? That's like one of our biggest disagreements, that and parenting, understandably. And we duke it out about the schedule. So we pull out the big whiteboard and we start jotting down times, because I'm going to fix this and figure it out. And you get this part, I get this part, you get this part, blah, blah, blah. He needs more, because his is less predictable and I'm home with baby more. So that's understandable. And we put it all out there. How often does that actually get followed? I don't know, but it's an outline. And I realize we have to redo the outline on almost a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, and sometimes on just a situational basis. Like, hey, the kids are sick this week. Hey, your business is going nuts right now. You have a client that's got a lot of needs and stuff. And so we're always recalibrating, and we do that as people too, right? It's like, just because I'm in health and wellness, just because I do business doesn't mean that I'm forever a professional and perfect in all these areas. Like, no. I think if anything, we have more pressure to have to recalibrate when we do fall off the wagon, when we do trip over our feet, when we are exhausted, when our head is getting in our way, right?
100%. Yeah. So what would your advice be to a woman who's working a job, has that security, but has this burning passion, this burning desire to become her own boss? How does she get started? I would say a woman and a man, honestly. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys. I think guys have a different pressure, right? Because they have to provide. And so sometimes men have, not that women don't too, but just atypically most common. It's like there's a lot of pressure in those ways too. But that's some of the main people I work with are people that are trying to build that thing that they're passionate about. And not all of them just don't need to worry about an income. A lot of them still need to make income while they're building the next thing. And so my thing, like I always school the coaches, is find your window and follow through with it consistently. Even if it's an hour a week, that is your time to build your next thing, your dream thing. Time block it, put it in your schedule. Don't tell me you can't find the time for it. Just like you can't find the time to move your body, if you can find the time for Netflix or whatever else. And not that there's not a place for Netflix, because trust me, every once in a while, shutting down this brain takes some Netflix. But you make that time, and that is your sacred time. And what starts is maybe your time to learn. Like for a lot of the coaches, they usually start with their education in that time. Like I said, maybe it's an hour, but make sure you can do it consistently. And if you can do 3 hours, great. But commit to what's doable for you, and see it through on a regular basis, because you'll practice consistency and you'll be working toward your dream. You can't get there if you're not consistently going to it. But if you're consistently moving to it, it's a boat, right? You say a row, maybe a slow row, but you're going to get there. You're going to get there. That's right. Well, that was the previous episode. So if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, go back.
I'm assuming people have been following all these episodes because they're short enough and they're great info. And I'm just going to assume very conceitedly that you've been listening all the way.
I like it. I like it. So this is, I'm going to give a piece of advice because I did it exactly the way that I would suggest no one does it. And this will directly feed to you, Brittany, and Brittany's not paying me to say this, but I had no idea. I had never really truly made a video before I decided I want to start a business around it. I was going through a divorce. I was recording myself on my cell phone and I was getting some likes. And I was like, hey, this feels pretty good. This is pretty cool. And then I ran into a buddy who had just gotten back from Vietnam, filming vets in Vietnam and traveling the world filming vets. And I was like, you can get paid to do that? So I dove in head first, borrowed a bunch of money, bought equipment, started watching YouTube videos. And it was, I mean, that absolutely directly contributed to my mental health crisis that I ended up ultimately dealing with, is because I felt so lost and it all came down onto me and I felt stupid and like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I ever going to figure this out? Here I'm putting in so much effort to make these marketing pieces for businesses. And they're like, yeah, great, thanks. Here's your money. And it's like, don't you love it? And it wasn't until this last year that I was finally like, why don't I check out some of these courses? Why don't I go online and see what other people who've done this have put together? I mean, I was being marketed to so much that it really was a turnoff. Like, they just want my money. But I started taking courses and holy freaking crap. It's just
intelligent courses, right?
Intelligent courses that were being taught by people that actually knew what they were doing. And I knew they knew what they were doing because I looked into it, did the research and they had done it. Mm-hmm. And I went from feeling really fortunate to get like a $2,500 video gig to now having clients that are paying me $5,000 a month to build them a YouTube channel, right? Because I took a course on how to do YouTube. And then that expanded into other things. And so if you are serious about doing this, man or woman, do not just go, I'll figure it out. I'll just figure it out. I'll just read books. I'll just watch YouTube videos. Take a course. The courses are designed to eliminate the missteps, the mistakes you're going to make. It's not going to give you. Now, I will say this. The course I took did not give me all the answers by any means, but it paved a foundation for me that then I could go and start filtering other information and go, does this fall in line with this? Or is this totally out there? Is this old information? Is this even relevant nowadays? Because this course said no. And I mean, within a few months now, I'm like generating business off of this. And I have my own YouTube channel that is involved with real estate. I know it doesn't have anything to do with mental health, but you got to generate the money sometimes, right? It's going to fund the mental health stuff. And so, with all seriousness though, like, take this seriously. Look at a course, whatever you're planning on doing, look at the course, see, is this person really doing it? Or did they just make a course because there's money in courses? If they're really doing it and they're having the experience, it doesn't matter what it costs, honestly, because the time that you're going to save, the mental health you're going to save, and the money you're going to be making after doing it. Oh my gosh. Yes. And even if it doesn't instantly generate income, you have just saved yourself years. Because I'm not kidding. 4 years I've been doing this. And 3.5 of those has been just grinding and gritting and selling my house to pay off debt to keep going. And like, soon as I took my first course, boom, everything changes. So highly recommend it. And I know like, oh, well, Brittany teaches a course and he's just plugging her. Shut up. Get past your doubt and look into it. Whether it's Brittany's course or not, do a course because it's going to save you so much time and money.
Well, and before we shut this off and wrap it up, I will say too, one thing that Trent's not being honest about, and I'm not saying this to plug him, but his videography is top shelf. And we're not just talking about your skill set, but he did a video. If you go to hwcacoach.com, you see anything for the training school. I still have it on the front of our website, even though it has a picture of my ex-husband in it, which we're cool now. Like, he's in the video, but whatever. But he had an incredible ability to put vision to a video. So not just be technical, but put vision to what he did. So I will venture to say that a lot of the stuff you've probably learned has bettered your videography skills, but has been more about maybe mindset work and business skill and all that. And that's what people fail to understand, is that you aren't bad at what you do. You're not a bad coach. You're not going to just fail at this or this. There's skill sets to business and how we put that stuff into action. Education is one piece. You'll have people that'll burn themselves out on education and take class after class and course after course and never do it. And then you have the people like us that are doers, and we'll just jump head in and then we'll pick up all the pieces later. And like, I think you made a point that there's a healthy balance of education and then application. And that's how we solidify the education, is education, application, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you so much. That video is a couple years old, so I have gotten a lot better since then. But
you have. I still love it.
100% though, that like, it's still going to be you having to do it. But if you have that drive, do not just go, I'll just go figure this out on my own, because it can crush you, and it can crush that passion. It did multiple times for me, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, because I didn't have any guidance. And like nowadays, there are like, you don't have to go and hire a business coach that's meeting with you every single week. There are people all over the world that can teach this stuff, that know this stuff and are super passionate. And so I just say, yeah, you got to go after it. And I mean, to hit on this point real quick, because you said something about like, oh, the vision and passion, like the business end of it. One major problem that I had that a course taught me was, if you don't set the expectations with your client and you just go, I'm just going to make a beautiful video for them, and they have no idea what to expect, 100% of the time, usually, every once in a while, you'll get a really nice lady or, guy who's like, I just love your work. You're so good. But most of the time, people want to know what they can expect. And like being able to set that expectation was key number one. So that way, if it's not what I set, it's not what I told them it was going to be, it's on me. But if it is what I told them it was going to be and they don't like it, then we can deal with that situation. So anyway, this episode's run a little bit long, probably not too bad though. It's been fun talking to you.
But it's been a good example of the things that we can cultivate, right? And through everything, and what are the things that almost take you out when you're on your way to your dream? How many times when you were struggling with your business stuff, was your physical or mental health not at its best capacity? And was it just bad because of work, or were these connected components of things you were experiencing? Because you've done so much with your health journey now recently that I don't think it's ironic at all that your business and that other things in life have started rising with all of that, right? And that's 100%. The point. That's what we're trying to give people, is to know that they can really achieve and create whatever life that they really want, and how this whole body, right, wants to live it. This is the vessel. We're building the vessel to live the dream.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Brittany's podcast. Thank you for letting me be your guest host. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed doing this with you a lot. I know your podcast is going to be a success. Make sure you check out the other episodes. If you haven't heard the first 3, I'm on them. So definitely go check them out.
Me too.
and Brittany's on them too. But absolutely love this. I think this is going to be awesome. Love what you're doing. So check out the other episodes. And until the next one, guys, take care.
Thanks for joining us in this week's Buddha Belly Life podcast. For more episodes, coaching resources, and gut programs, visit buddhabellylife.com. Don't forget to put us in your schedule for next week. And remember, keep showing up and enjoy the journey.